different locations to each division or each battalion or each command inside that division.
So you were mostly dealing with mobile communication. You could take this down and
we could take it down,
move it somewhere else.
We could take it down in a few hours, fold it all up, load it up, and put it on the truck and move off to another site. So we would, and in fact, I was stationed out at several different sites while I was in Vietnam. But this was a training that I received at Fort Gordon, Georgia.
How to put it all together.
How to put it all together. How to
make sure it works.
How to make sure it works, and how to tune it in, fine tune it in. How to pick up communication with the other party that was 300 or 400 miles away, of what have you.
And then take it all down. And
take it all down, move
it
if necessary, or what have you. Yeah.
Any incident in Fort Gordon that stands out? Any funny thing that happened, or any incident? Somebody pointing the antenna the wrong way or something? I mean, I don't know. Just anything come to mind that.
I can't think of anything out of the ordinary that happened in Fort Gordon, Georgia. While I was in Fort Gordon, Georgia, I did have the opportunity to bring my wife and my son with me. We had an apartment off base, so my wife and my son was with me for approximately 6 weeks while I was at Fort Gordon, Georgia. You couldn't do that in basic training, but in AIT training, troops at that point in time were allowed to bring family member with them and live off base if necessary.
So that beat living in the barracks.
It beats living in the barracks, and it beat eating the Army food every day, and it was also a little nicer than sleeping in a barracks with 50 other guys. Go home to a wife and a kid every day was a little bit more
sure,
tolerable.
a little better. Made life a little more bearable.
Right.
So you finish up at Fort Gordon, and they give you orders for
Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get some leave after
Yes.
Fort Gordon?
Yes. When we finished at Fort Gordon, Georgia, had a 30-day leave. So my wife and my son and I went back to Jackson, Mississippi. We rode the bus back to Jackson, Mississippi, and was there for 30 days. And at the end of the 30-day period, I had to report back to Fort Lewis, Washington.
Oh, so you had to get all the way back to Washington.
Had to get all the way back. Was flown all the way back to Fort Lewis, Washington. And at Fort Lewis, Washington was the home of the 4th Infantry Division. And so doing basic training and AIT training, from basic training forward, I was assigned to the 4th Infantry Division. But once I was given a specialty in communication, I was then sent to Fort Gordon, Georgia to do training. But the real intent was that I was still a part of the 4th Infantry, but the 4th Infantry did not have communication training at Fort Lewis, Washington, so had to go to Fort Gordon, Georgia for that.
So you were part of the 4th. They just sort of shipped you temporarily to Fort Gordon to get the special training and then come back.
Correct.
Okay. So
some of the guys that were assigned to combat engineering may have went off to Fort Riley, Kansas, or somewhere to specialize in engineering, combat engineering, and then was brought back to the 4th, similar as I was. So I was flown back to Fort Lewis, Washington, and spent approximately 4 days in Fort Lewis, Washington, preparing to be shipped out to Vietnam. At that time, this was September, October 1966 time frame. The 4th Infantry Division, the entire division was being shipped to Vietnam. So the whole division was moved out, the whole lock, stock, and barrel. So we was there for 4 or 5 days. During that time period, we were being given special inoculations and all for the mosquitoes and the other diseases that we may encounter in the Southeast Asia or in the Vietnam. We went through some